Hampton. When did Terry purchase that house?
I was in high school when she bought that house. I believe I was a junior, so probably around 1994.
All right, so at the time of her death, she had been in that house for about 25 years.
Yeah, I would say that's close.
And I'm just showing you State's Exhibit 2. This is the house that we're talking about.
Yes.
All right. Did you spend a lot of time in that house with your mom?
The first couple of years, I lived in that house, and then, some visits here and there, but, mostly just to pick her up for us to go places, or, the last few years I hadn't spent a lot of time in the house with her now.
Had you routinely been inside the house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Over the years?
Yes.
All right. Was there a fireplace in that house?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 25. Is this the fireplace you recall being in the house?
It is.
Is that the same fireplace that's always been in that house?
Yes, it was in it when we moved in.
Okay. Did your mother light fires in that fireplace?
Yes.
How often?
Anytime she was cold, she, always had access to wood that was up under the carport. So anytime she was cold, that was her first thing to do, was light a fire.
To your knowledge, did she ever have any issues lighting a fire?
No.
She ever burn herself?
No.
Did she ever have an explosion?
No.
I'm trying to do that with the bleeding again.
Try to avoid specifics that would be leading.
Okay. Actually, Leanne, one more question about this picture.
Yeah.
States 25. There's a photograph to the left of the fireplace. Who is that?
That is me. That usually hung right here since we had moved in. It looks like the frame is missing. I don't know if it fell or what have you, but it always hung right to the left of the fireplace.
From what you observed, how would you describe Terry and Craig's relationship in general?
Sometimes really good, sometimes really bad. Of course they had arguments.
I understand.
It's really hard to say. It was a very odd relationship at times. It seemed fairly normal for a long time. Things, the last few years there were issues that I witnessed. Nothing physical, I will say. It was mostly verbal. I know at one point there was some infidelity. Then I saw the text messages.
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay. Just what you personally observed, but I think you answered that question,
Yes.
so thank you. Did your mom, without saying what she told you, did your mom talk to you about her relationship with Craig?
Yes.
Did you ever give her any advice about her relationship with Craig?
All the time.
All right, and towards the end of 2019, what advice did you give to your mom?
Towards the end of 2018.
Or 2018, yes, I'm sorry.
Um,
And this is just what you are telling your mother, not what she's telling you.
My words to her were always, you have to figure something out. Somebody's going to get hurt.
Okay. Did you ever witness any controlling or jealous behavior on the part of Craig?
The main thing I witnessed would be, you know, if she took her brother to the store or something.
Let's, we need to do this probably. Let's give you all an early break. So we'll be.
I can withdraw the question.
Okay, all right.
I'll
Thank you.
withdraw the question. Let's move on to January of 2019.
Okay.
Did you have any contact with Craig or your mother before the burn incident?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about that. When was that?
The day before, is that the day you want to hear about?
Yes,
Start
ma'am.
there.
Yes, ma'am.
I had actually texted Craig earlier in the day. He was helping me to buy a house. We had been renting for quite some time and just wanted to really settle down and, you know, have a home. So I did ask him for help. My credit score wasn't quite high enough alone to be able to do it. So Mom and I talked about it, and she told me to ask Craig and see if he was willing to help.
Okay, without,
Sorry.
I know you probably did not mean to do that,
No.
but just anything. So you talked to Craig about him helping you out to
Yes.
get a house.
He was going to help with the credit part, signing, as well as the down payment.
Okay. Pretty nice thing of him to do, right?
Oh yes, it was.
Who was there for this conversation?
It was Craig, my mom, me, and I want to say Addison was with me, my daughter, but I
Okay.
am not 100% sure.
Okay. And where did this conversation take place?
At the Kansas City address.
All right. Is that where they were staying that night?
I believe they were, yes.
Okay. All right. Anything else you recall about that night? What was going on at Kansas City that night before you left?
Before I left at that point, no, not really. You know, there's opinions, so I don't really want to say that, but you know, it was just kind of a tense environment, but nothing really other than that.
Okay. What happened later that night?
I left and went home. You know, I don't know exactly. It was probably 7 or 8 o'clock. Went home, normal nightly things. I don't remember anything out of the ordinary before bed. My phone rang in the middle of the night. I want to say it was around 2:30 a.m. It was my mom. I could not really understand a lot that she was saying, but she did ask me to come get her.
Okay.
Objection, once again.
So,
Sustained.
you could,
History, please.
your mom called you, and then what did you do as a result of her calling you?
I threw some clothes on and immediately drove to the Kansas City address.
What did you see at Kansas City when you got there?
She was standing outside. She had like a half-torn bag. I don't remember at this point what was in it. I think it may have been some clothes or something. And she got in my car.
All right. What was her demeanor like?
She was hysterical.
Okay. Nothing about what she said.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Because she really didn't say much. She was hysterical. She was having a hard time walking.
Where did you go once you left Kansas City at that point?
When I turned onto Kansas City Road, she made me stop. I had not gotten far down the road because she didn't have keys to get in the house or any of her medication.
Okay, did you go back to the residence at that time?
After we argued on the side of the road for about 5 minutes, I finally agreed because she wouldn't have it any other way. So I agreed to take her back to Kansas City.
Okay. When you got back to Kansas City, what did you observe? What did you see?
I didn't see anything to start with. She got out of the car.
Yes, what did she do?
Yes, she got out of the car. She went to the door that has I guess it was the back door that has the wheelchair ramp and the grill sitting there.
Okay, let me stop you right there and ask. I'm going to show you 47 and 48. Is this the back of the trailer that you're talking about with the ramp? And
Yes,
then
that's the same.
the door
Yes,
in 48?
yes.
All right, so she went to that door.
Yes.
Up that ramp into that door.
Correct.
Okay. And then what happened?
She knocked on the door several times, beat on it with her fist because he didn't come to the door. And then finally he slung the door open.
He meaning who?
Craig.
Okay. After he flung the door open, what happened?
They argued.
Okay.
Without, going into what either one of them said.
Sure. No.
There were several items that were thrown from inside of the residence, just random paper, and I think there was a plant, just random things Craig threw out onto that little porch area.
Okay.
Mom tried to walk in to get her keys and her medication. And he slammed her hand in the door. He would not let her in. She kept trying to get the door open. It was all the way open at one point, and I was able to see in. But then he slammed it again, and he pushed her down. He grabbed her by the back of the head and slammed her face into the grill. And he pushed her down the ramp.
Did he say anything to you after that occurred?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said, I gave her everything. I've always given her anything she wanted. And now she's cheating on me. And she's lost everything. She gets nothing. I'm done. I gave her the world, and now she gets nothing.
Okay. All right. At that point, what did you do?
He told me to get her out of there, so I helped her up and put her in my car. Told her I'd find a way to get her in the house.
All right. Did you take her home?
Yes.
Okay.
I tried to take her to my house. She would have no part of that. So I took her home. and helped her get in.
Okay. And did she have a phone?
I do not know if she had, no, she did not have a phone that night. Her 6537 phone had been destroyed the week before, and she had a new phone, but I don't know. I know it was at the Kansas City address. I don't know if it was still operational and she just didn't have it with her, or I don't know if it was destroyed. I have no idea. But no, she did not have a phone with her.
Okay. Did she get a phone?
The next morning, when I went to check on her before I went to work, it was like 6 a.m.
Okay.
I took her NOS energy drink she had to have every day, and a pack of cigarettes. And I told her, I said, you know, something has to be done. I'm leaving you Addison's phone, which was an iPhone. My mom did not know how to text. She had a flip phone. All she could do was make calls. I took the passcode off Addison's phone and just showed her the call button. Had my number, you know, right where she could easily access it, and told her, if you need anything, call me. She asked me for some money. Sorry.
Okay.
Habit, sorry.
No, it's okay. So, so you left her with Addison's phone?
I did leave her with Addison's phone and asked her to call me if he came to the house, or if she needed anything, so that I could get back, because I worked about an hour away.
Okay. And so did you go to work after that?
I did.
Did you ever receive a phone call from Addison's phone?
Somehow she got FaceTime calls to come through instead of regular phone calls, once or twice early that morning. You know, but a quick phone call, and then hung up. And then starting around probably 10 a.m., I kept getting, it was back and forth between FaceTime calls and regular phone calls, but she wasn't on the other end when I would try to answer, and it was actually my coworker, and I made a joke about it, because I'm like, she cannot use this iPhone, which I figured was going to be an issue, because she didn't know how. So we just kind of laughed it off. I probably got 6 or 7 of those calls that I just couldn't hear anything on the other end.
Okay. What was the next phone call you received, and who was that from?
The next call was from Craig.
What did he say?
He said, your mom's been hurt. I need you to come home. And I said, okay, what's wrong? What do you mean she's hurt? He said, she burned herself. I said, okay, how did she burn herself? He goes, Leanne, it's bad. I need you to come home now. I said, okay, I'm packing up. I'm leaving now. Where do I need to go? He said, they're going to fly her out. That's all I know. I did not do this to her, but you need to get here now.
Okay. Was that the only phone call that you received from him, or
No.
were there others?
There were others.
Okay.
I received a text from him that said, please hurry.
Okay.
I received, I believe one of the calls I received was actually from Addison's phone, saying, you know, you have to get here. You know, this is really bad. They're getting ready to leave with her. They're going to fly her out. You have to get here.
Okay. Did you go to the hospital?
I did. It took me a little bit to get there because he did tell me they were flying her to Atlanta instead of Augusta, which I couldn't figure out. It didn't make any sense to me. But, you know, being in Charleston, I was a few miles from the airport, so I contemplated just going to the airport and meeting her in Atlanta. But after all the phone calls back and forth, I decided to go ahead to Walterboro. I got gas and got to Walterboro to the hospital just as quick as I could.
Okay. When you got to the hospital, what did you see? Who was there and what did you see?
Mom was there. She was already intubated and wrapped up. Craig was sitting in the chair off to the left, probably 6 feet from the bed. Just sitting there, and he said, "I don't know what to do. I didn't do this to her. What do we need to do?"
Did you notice anything about his appearance?
I noticed nothing out of the ordinary. He was clean. No burns, no soot, no blood. Just sitting there like nothing had happened. I mean, he was distraught. He was very quiet, but his appearance was normal.
Okay. At some point, did Craig leave the hospital?
He and I discussed Atlanta, and I told him, of course, I was going. I was going to leave. I tried to get him to let me go on the plane with her, but of course there was no room. That was about all that was discussed about it. I walked outside, kind of paced the halls for a few minutes. And then I walked over to the nurse's desk to ask her condition, ask when she would be flown out. I asked if anything looked out of the ordinary, because something just didn't feel right being the way I had left her that morning. It just felt off. And the nurse asked me why I was asking.
Once again,
Sustained.
Okay.
Please don't say anything the nurse said to you.
Did you give the nurse any information that you had from the night before?
I told the nurse, I said there was a very bad fight and I had to pick her up at 2 a.m. Because of a domestic dispute, and had to drop her off at her other residence around 2 or 3 a.m. this morning. So I was just curious if,
Okay, so you gave that information to
yes.
the nurse. Okay.
I did not give any details, just, that there was an altercation and I had to pick her up.
Okay. After you left the nurse's station and after you gave that information to the nurse, was Craig still there or was he gone at that point?
No, when I was standing at the nurse's station talking to them, I actually saw him walk down the hall. I assumed he was walking outside because he didn't say anything to anybody. I figured, probably like me, he was pacing the halls. But it appears he left at that time.
Okay. After your mother was transferred to Atlanta, how long did she live?
Until November 1st, 2019.
And how many times did you see her during those months?
My job actually worked with me because they were opening a warehouse in Atlanta about 5 miles from the hospital. So they moved me to Atlanta for a few months so that I could be there. Was there every single day.
Okay.
I took nothing with me because I stopped to get a phone charger and I think medication, and that was it. So I had nothing with me. So after we got through the first day or two, I did come back to Walterboro. I believe it was that Monday. And, just get some clothes and try to talk to the kids because I had not even seen my kids to be able to tell them what had happened. I talked to them on the phone, of course, but they were with their dad. So I spent a few minutes with them. Got a speeding ticket on the way back to Atlanta. And that's where I stayed.
Okay.
I would occasionally come home for one night on the weekends, and a lot of times I would just fly home because I just needed to see them for a few hours, but I'd go right back. And the hospital would call me anytime anything changed so that I could go back over there.
What was her condition at this time?
Which time?
During this time?
Okay, sorry.
Like at the very beginning.
You can, at the very beginning throughout, what you observed her condition to be during those months.
Well,
Not medically, but just what you saw.
I saw many machines and monitors for, I believe it was 2 straight months. She was completely sedated. They said that had to be because of the pain. She went through multiple surgeries, skin grafts. She had cadaver skin to try to stop infections in her face and her chest.
Did she require assistance to do anything?
She never was able to do anything on her own without assistance again.
Okay. Was she bedridden?
Yes, to the point that she had a bed sore. It actually became infected and became one of the biggest issues. At one point, it was so large that it was the size of a softball. Because they could not position her anywhere but on her back. Because there weren't any burns on her back. Everything was on the front. So they could kind of prop pillows to kind of keep her, as best they could. But, there was just really not much they could do.
What was her demeanor like during those months?
Hysterical when she was awake. At one point things improved so that she could talk. She was able to start feeding herself with her left hand. She didn't have any use of her right arm. She could not roll over in bed by herself. She couldn't sit up by herself.
And eventually, did she decline?
Yes, she had gotten, when she was in Charleston, she had one of the best therapists I've ever met, and she could take a few steps with the walker, with assistance, of course. Still no use of her right arm, still, couldn't roll over or get up by herself, but she could, once they could get her up, she could take those steps. And she could spend some time sitting in the wheelchair. And when she had to go back to Augusta for the neck whatever it is when the skin tightens up and they have to loosen it. She started declining. It was up and down. Some days she was completely herself and lucid and happy and fine. And then other days it got to the point that for the first time in my life she didn't know who I was.
Okay.
She refused food. She refused medication. She refused anything.
Okay. All right. Almost finished, Leanne. I just want to show you a few things. I'll show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 17 and ask if you recognize what's contained in this picture.
Yes, that's the couch that sat when you walked in that back door. You walked straight into that couch.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's 21.
This is where that couch would have been.
Okay. So there's like kind of a rectangle here.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking
Yes.
about? So State 17 was right here,
Yes.
and State's 21.
It was facing the TV, but it was right there.
Okay. And what side of this couch did your mom sit on if you're facing it?
If she was sitting on the couch, she would be on the left side of either couch. It was always the left side.
Okay. So this couch specifically, she would be sitting on the left side.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, we see a gray chair right here.
She sat in that a lot as well.
Okay. Was that the chair that's closest to the fireplace?
Yes.
Okay. State's 23. Is that the green chair? I mean, the gray chair?
Yes.
All right. So was that gray chair between the fireplace and the couch?
Yes.
Okay. Beg the court's indulgence.
Thank you, John.
Thank you so much, Leanne. Please answer any questions that Ms. Wright Matthews has for you.
Yes, ma'am.
May we take a short break, please?
Let's do that. Members of the jury, please don't discuss the case, any of the testimony, or anything with each other during the break, but we'll take about a 15-minute break at this time. Stay right there. Ma'am, you can wander around if you'd like. You just can't discuss the case or testimony with anyone during the break. You understand? You're welcome to sit right here, or you can wander around, take a break if you'd like, okay? All right, anything for the record before we go off the record? All right, things should be off for about 15. Don't be seated, Thanks. Please sit down. the jury finished with their break, or? Oh, bring them in, please. And ma'am, you are still under oath. Thank you so much. Ms. Bright Matthews.
May it please the court?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Ms. Kellum.
Good morning.
Ms. Kellum, how old are you?
Trick question. 47.
And you went to high school with Craig?
Different schools.
But y'all were in high school at the same time?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you used to bring Craig over to the house? Were y'all friends?
We were friends, yes.
And he came over to the house?
Yes.
At age 16, he started living with your mother. Is that correct?
Living with her now.
When did he start living with your mother?
I really could not tell you.
When did you leave the house?
When I left and went to Clemson in 95.
And how old were you?
About 18.
Okay. Did Craig ever live with your mother before he eventually married her?
Yes.
And how long did they live together before he married her?
I really don't know. It was a long time, but I don't know.
Okay. And you were 1 year older than Craig?
A few months older.
Okay. You talked about the house that you were in, and your parents divorced. How old were you when they divorced?
12 or 13.
Okay. And then you lived with your mother alone.
Yes.
Okay. Your mother eventually, when she was with Craig, had to file for bankruptcy, didn't she? On that house. Did you know anything about that? And Craig had to save it?
I do know she filed for bankruptcy. I don't remember if it was before she was in that house or after.
Do you remember talking with them about the house, where they got the house and put it in both of their names because he paid it off? You remember any of that?
I do remember him paying it off, yes.
Okay. And let's talk about your statement first, just a little bit, that you gave just a minute ago. You came over the day before to talk about needing money to help you buy a house. Isn't that right?
Correct.
And everything was fine when you left? You left your mother there, so everything was fine, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you talked about Craig, there being problems, but you felt comfortable coming over that day, didn't you?
Yes.
And because you'd been talking to Craig, texting him, and talking about this $25,000, the
Yes,
down
we-
payment.
We'd been talking for several weeks.
Now, Craig had also bought your son a truck, didn't he?
Him and as well as my son's father
And
paid part.
yes, and because he paid for the truck mostly, he put his name on the truck, didn't he?
The truck was in my name.
Okay, and he's a lien holder?
He listed it as a lien holder until Thomas's 18th birthday, when it was supposed to be signed over to him so that I could not sell the truck or do anything to it until that time.
He was concerned about you selling the truck, right? Or putting a lien on it, right?
I don't know.
Had you previously had problems with finances?
I would object to relevance. I'm not sure what her finances have to do with whether or not Craig killed Terry.
Your Honor,
What is
if I
the-
can respond,
Go
since if you would give me a little latitude, this goes to what she said about Craig helping her out and why she needed to be helped out.
All right, I'll allow it. Go ahead.
She's already testified that he has helped her out.
I
Or was-
understand. I'll let her
Okay.
go a little bit. Thank you.
He helped me out several times.
And one of those times was when you were about to lose your house. You and your first husband lived over in Silver Hills, which is not too far from Wade Hampton. Didn't you have a house there?
When I was married, yes.
And you were married to Frankie Kellum, correct?
Correct.
And y'all had a house over in Silver Hills. Then you fell behind on your payments. And isn't it correct that the first time you fell behind on your payments, Craig helped you out and that foreclosure didn't go through? Isn't that right?
No, he helped me with my car, never with the house.
The second time, isn't it correct that the second time when they were foreclosing on that house that you and Frankie had, he refused to help you because of this was the second time.
I didn't ask him for help.
Was that house foreclosed upon?
Not until after I had moved out and my husband, or ex-husband, decided that he could not afford it anymore, so he let it go.
The foreclosure and the deficiency was placed in your and your husband's name?
Yes, because my name was on it as well, but I was no longer living there.
Okay.
I was no longer making any of the payments. That was all on my ex-husband.
Didn't Craig quit high school
I believe so.
and he went to work in the logging, eventually worked different places, but he ended up in the logging woods?
Objection to leading?
I'm on cross.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but relevance, what is the relevance?
Well, let's cross. I'll let her go a little bit. Go ahead, please.
Now I've almost forgotten what I said. Didn't he end up going to work in the logging woods to help provide for you, your family, when you were going through the divorce, as well as your mom?
I don't know that it was to provide for me, no.
Okay. So let's talk about what your mother went through. You remember appearing at the bond hearing for Craig?
Yes,
And that was on February the 19th of 2019?
I don't remember the date.
And do you remember writing a statement to the bond judge and
Yes.
reading that? Do you remember in that statement whether or not you said anything about the 3 times or being knocked down or slamming hand in the door or anything like that?
I have no idea what the statement was. I have no idea.
You would agree that that statement that was less than a month, well, about exactly a month after this accident occurred, would be the most accurate statement, right?
I was instructed to write the letter only about flight risk or risk to the community and nothing else.
And when you started the letter that way to the court, and you talked about it in court, you said no idea if he's a flight risk, no idea if he's a danger to the community. But then you went on to talk about the 17th. Do you remember making this statement, Leanne? The night of the 16th in the early morning, 17th, she called me to come to get her. She was screaming. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I went to Kansas City Road address. You remember that?
Yes.
Through the window. You said through the window. The house was a wreck. You remember that?
I remember saying that about the Wade Hampton house.
Let me just finish and then I'll show you the rest of your statement.
Okay.
Through the window, the house was a wreck, broken furniture, broken shotgun. Her meds were thrown everywhere.
Yes.
She begged for her keys and wallet so I could take her home.
Yes.
Okay? I watched him slam her hand in the door, push her down the ramp repeatedly, and slam her head into the grill on the porch.
Yes.
But then you wrote another statement. And in that statement, you specifically said that he threw her down 3 times
Okay.
and broke off a shotgun in her hip.
I did not see that.
Okay, you said that in this statement. You said you saw a broken shotgun.
Yes, I did
Okay.
see the broken shotgun. I did not see how it got broken.
And you said just a minute, and previously in another statement, that there was somebody standing up in the camper at 2:00 in the morning.
Yes, when I was leaving, one of the guys, I don't know which one that lived in the camper, was standing there.
Okay, and you also, in that statement, said that this happened at 2:00 in the morning.
Yes.
And you stated when you were testifying on direct that your mother was outside. Didn't you previously say that it was dark, 2:00 in the morning, and your mother was seated outside?
I don't remember if she was seated. I know she was outside.
Okay, I'll show you your statement in a minute. And you said that she beat on the door, or did you just take her that first time? Was it the second time that she beat on the door?
I believe it was the second time.
And slamming the door, I think you said that he slung the door open. Is there one of the chains on that door to stop it from going too far open? This is a mobile home we're talking about.
I have no idea if there's a chain or not.
And the entire time this is happening, you're in your car.
No.
You
I
got-
am standing right beside the ramp.
Now, Leanne, please tell this jury whether or not your mother was having a manic episode.
No, she was not.
Was she bipolar?
She was controlled bipolar.
Okay. Were there lights on outside?
I have no idea.
Okay. And did your mama previously have problems walking?
She had balance issues at one time, yes.
Had they resolved?
For the most part, yes.
What does for the most
She
part
would
mean?
still occasionally have an issue, but nothing major.
And is it your testimony that Craig threw her all the way down the wheelchair ramp?
He did push her all the way down the wheelchair
And
ramp,
what
yes.
and she landed where and how?
She landed on the ground.
Okay. I'm going to show you what is marked as State's Exhibit number 47. What is that a photograph of?
The wheelchair ramp.
Okay. Where was your car parked?
I really could not tell you. I have no idea.
In that photograph on that night when you saw all you say you saw, you can't tell me where your car was parked? How you pulled in the yard?
I have no idea. I pulled in over here in the driveway and came over here, but I don't know if I parked on the side or the back. I have no idea.
And is it your testimony that this entire ramp, when Craig came out, He threw your mother all the way down to the end and she landed on the ground.
Yes, he pushed her all the way down to the end.
And he did that by her falling down, or did he shove her out the door?
Well, one of the times he pushed her face into the grill and then pushed her down the ramp.
The grill we're talking about is where?
Right here at the top of the ramp, right
Okay.
outside the door.
And so you were standing outside of your car?
I had gone up here to try to get her to leave because he was slamming her hands in the door when she was trying to open them.
Slamming. How many times did she slam? Did he slam her hands in the door?
Many.
Many being more than 10, less than 10? or
Less than 10.
Less than 5?
I would say somewhere around there.
He slammed her hand in the door, and you didn't go up on the porch, did you?
Yes, I did.
And you grabbed your mama, or you grabbed Craig?
I did not touch Craig.
Okay, you grabbed your mama?
Yes.
And did you do that after the first slam, or the second slam, third slam, or fifth slam?
I grabbed her several times.
Okay, and she was hysterical, wasn't she?
She was.
She
She
wa-
wanted her medication and her belongings.
You tried to convince your mother not to go back?
I did.
And in your statement, you said not anything else except for she wanted her wallet so that she could buy cigarettes the next day.
She did.
And your mother smoked about 1 to 2 packs a day, didn't she?
About one.
Okay? And so every day she had to go buy a pack if she didn't have a carton, right?
Right.
Okay? Let's go to the hospital. In your statement that you referenced earlier, I think it's interesting, Leanne, that you said in that statement, he said she was playing around and caught herself on fire. Did you tell the jury that just a minute ago?
I believe so.
He is, okay. He said, I mean it. It's bad, you need to come home.
Right.
Okay, so do you make a distinction between playing around and caught herself on fire from she was burned, just plain she was burned?
I don't understand the question.
Okay, that's fine. This happened on January 17th, 2019. Isn't it in fact correct, 12 days after this accident happened, you filed an emergency proceeding to become conservator and guardian of your mother? Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you hired Morrison Payne here in Walterboro to do that for you.
Correct.
You filed an affidavit, a sworn affidavit, that your mother had third-degree burns over 50% of her body, and that she was set on fire by her husband, didn't you?
I would have to look at what was, because the doctors did say at first that. Okay.
You can't say what the doctor said.
You can't object to your own question.
No.
Let's do this. I understand you've withdrawn the question. Don't answer it if you would.
Did you give us affidavit with the court?
Yes.
Okay. Let me show you the affidavit, and I'll ask you if that's your affidavit. Leanne, I'm going to withdraw that question for now until I get the rest of the affidavit. Apparently, I don't have it all here, but if you would give me back that, I will show it to you.
Okay.
Why did you file for emergency proceedings over your mother?
Your Honor, just in reference to that affidavit, the state would request a copy of that once Ms. Bright Matthews gets all of it together.
Granted.
Thank
What-
you.
I will make sure I have it for her. Did you believe that your mother had been burned 50% of her body?
I did not have an exact number. I do know that one of the newspapers printed 50%.
Okay.
I do know the actual number was 38%.
Okay. Now, you asked for emergency proceedings of probate court for something else. Do you know what you asked them to do? Okay. Didn't you ask the court to freeze all of Craig Lewis's and Terry Lewis's assets?
Yes.
Did you know at that time that you asked the court to do that 12 days after this matter occurred, that Craig had inherited a large sum of money that he had in safety deposit boxes? Did you know about that?
I knew he did have some, yes.
Okay. And you had that money frozen, didn't you?
I did not know where the money was. I had his assets frozen, yes.
And you knew that that was money he received from his uncle. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
And your mother, that was not commingled money with your mother.
Not to my knowledge.
As a result of you freezing his assets, those assets remained frozen in the Bank of the Low Country, which was Bank of the Walterboro then, and South State. Is that correct?
I believe it was South State, yes.
And
I'm going to object to relevance. I'm not sure what freezing assets after Craig Lewis is accused of murdering her mom has anything to do with his actions that day or impeachment. How does this go to truthfulness or untruthfulness?
Your
I'm happy to hear
Honor,
from you.
it goes to motive. For her to give an untrue statement, it goes to her, and I have some additional evidence I'd like to show her. It goes to why she would make the allegation of murder, being that she is the only heir. She thinks she would be the only heir.
All right, overruled. I'll let her go into it. Thank you.
Ms. Kellum, you remember us appearing in court on the 29th of January of 2019 and your attorney producing that bank statement of Craig Lewis and Terry Lewis?
I do remember going. I don't know what I was given and what I wasn't.
You remember being shown that by Judge Amundsen, the probate judge, and this is a statement date of 2019 February, where it has attached to it a check that was written by you on Terry and Craig Lewis's account and dated January 15th, 2019 for $1,200 that you admitted in court that you predated a check on Craig's account and your mother's account when your mother was incapacitated because the check was cashed by you and not signed by your mom on January 23rd. Do you remember doing that?
I never predated anything.
Well, did you cash a check on January 23rd before you became conservator of that account?
I was told to.
Your Honor, is that yes?
Yes.
I would move this into evidence.
Counsel, have a copy?
Yes, I
I
have.
do.
Okay. Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right. That will be what number? Where are we, Madam Court Reporter? 6. Defendant 6 without objection.
Now that you've had a chance to look at it, you did sign your mother's name when you did not have court authority to do so?
I had her permission, not court permission.
And your mother was intubated when you got to the hospital. This check was cashed.
When the issue of her deciding to leave Craig, she asked me for cash. I gave her cash.
Okay. And
So this was to return the cash to me that I had given to her.
okay, and it was dated on the 15th, predated, and then signed.
Not predated. It was
Okay.
written on the 15th.
And you received $1,200 on January 23rd.
Yes, when I came back to Walterboro to get my things.
Your Honor, I would move this into evidence.
All right, again, counsel has, I think we already,
I have.
all right, that was defendant 6 without objection. Thank you.
Leanne, isn't it in fact true that only 4 days after your mother was accidentally burned, you started a GoFundMe account, didn't you?
Well, I was going to be traveling back and forth to Atlanta and living in a hotel for months to come. So yes, I did.
My question was simple. Did you start,
I did.
and you did that within 4 days of your mother being accidentally burned?
Yes.
Okay? Is that a copy of the GoFundMe?
Yes.
And tell the jury, if you would, how much money you got from that account immediately?
Does it say on here? Because I really don't know.
It says almost immediately you raised $2,530.
Over the whole period of time, yes.
They eventually took it down because of it involved another account you started that related to you telling Terry's story. You remember that? You did daily posts from the hospital in reference to your mother's progress.
I did, yes.
And because of that, they ended up taking down that post.
No, I took down that post.
Okay.
Because my job helped me live in Atlanta, so I did not need any assistance.
You didn't need any money at that time, right?
Correct.
Okay. Your Honor, I would move that into evidence. As number 7.
7, no objection.
No objection.
Defendant 7.
Did you ever, on your postings that you made on Facebook, did you ever tell your readers that your mom recovered from her burns and was transferred to Charleston? You remember saying that?
I probably did, yes.
Okay. You never told them about the 2 falls she had once she was at NHC and back in Augusta, did you?
I don't know of 2 falls she had.
Okay.
I know of one.
And as a result of that fall, what did you do? You were her guardian and conservator.
I was told she was not injured during the fall.
Okay. Did Dr. Baumgardner or any of the doctors tell you about her lung being injured? And they had to have x-rays because of the fall?
Because of the fall? No, I was never told that.
Okay. Now, you love your mom?
Is that a question?
You loved your mom, didn't you?
Very
You
much.
supported her. You were always there with her.
I was.
Did you ever say that mom gave up her will to live?
She did.
When you realized that, you never offered withdraw. Let's go back to the probate. Were you relieved by the court after a motion to compel was filed by the judge in probate court as conservator and personal and guardian for your mom?
I don't really understand that question.
Did they remove you as the conservator and, of the estate and find you in contempt?
No, I filed to be removed when she passed away.
Okay, and in order to be removed, you had to turn over the financial documents.
Yes.
And by then, Morrison Payne had already stopped representing you, right?
Yes, I was no longer using Morrison Payne.
And so then you had to, the court sent you a letter, you told them my mom has passed, so they told you you have to file an accounting. And did you file an accounting?
I did not do it on time, no.
And then the court sent you a couple of letters, and then you ended up hiring Andy Shepard out of Somerville.
Yes, who helped me get it all taken care of.
And when you say taken care of, what does that mean?
He helped me file all the paperwork and financials that needed to be filed.
Leanne, I have an order here that was filed by the court on 2021, May 14th, and in it, the judge says, you as the conservator you're found in willful contempt of court for failing to perform your duties as conservator. And she goes on to say that you must file these documents. And then you later received the help of Andy Shepard, and again, you're found in contempt of court even with him because, correct me if I'm wrong,
Objection, Your Honor.
What is the objection?
I would object on the basis of relevance. This is all stuff that occurred in probate court after the death of her mother, after Leanne has given statements. Her performance as conservator, I'm not sure has anything to do with her being a witness in this case or for the purposes of impeachment or anything like this. She already testified that this was about not timely filing something for a conservatorship. What does this have to do with this case?
Your Honor, again, I'm on cross, and if you would give me a little latitude, there's another order explaining the contempt, which goes to financials and what she did with the money, with her mother's money as conservator, and that goes to veracity.
All right, we'll try to wrap it up in a few questions because I'm trying to figure the relevance out.
I am
What's
objecting to the entry of a contempt order for not timely filing.
Is that offered as an exhibit?
No,
Okay,
I
all
just
right.
showed it to her.
All right, thank you.
Leanne, I won't have to put in the document if you remember. Do you remember the court in August of that, right after that contempt order, finding that you, when filing the accounting from when you were taking care of your mother's affairs while she was in the hospital, that they found that you had spent $4,454.90 of her money and couldn't account for it? Is that right?
I could account for it, yes.
Were you found in contempt of court for not accounting for $4,494.90?
I was able to account for it. All of those were expenditures that my mother, during her time in Charleston, asked me to do, things she needed, things she wanted to do, things she wanted to do for the kids. So no, the court would not accept them, but I never really anticipated her having to continue the conservatorship considering she was 100% lucid. These were her requests for expenditures.
And all you had to do was list those expenditures for her to the court, and
I
they
did.
would have approved them. Didn't your attorney send a letter saying we can't find what she did with $4,400 worth of money?
I think we had the majority of it.
Well, what about the part of the order that says it appears that $1,832 of the expenditures were for persons other than Terry Lewis?
I have no idea.
You don't know about that? You don't remember going into the hearing and being asked by the judge about that?
That's been 5 years ago. I have no idea.
Your Honor, I would move this document into evidence.
What document?
I thought I gave it to you. This is the contempt.
going to object again to relevance. I believe, Ms. Cronky has answered the questions. Again, this is just an accounting when she was a conservator for her mother, spending money at the request of her mother while she was taking care of her. This goes beyond.
I think it does. I'm going to sustain the objection on the
Thank you.
document.
Your Honor, if I could put on the record, if I could just, I've marked it as 8. If I could explain further the defense's position.
Go ahead.
She's already expressed.
Maybe outside the presence of the jury would be appropriate since.
Probably not a bad idea. Let's do that. Would y'all take a quick break for me? Don't discuss the case while you're out. And all right, yes.
If I can, in response on the Rule 608 of the evidence of character, conduct, and bias of witness, under subsection C, it says, evidence of bias, prejudice, or any motive to misrepresent may be shown to impeach the witness either by examination of the witness or by evidence otherwise adduced. And I've shown that she cashed a check when her mother was incapacitated and before she received conservatorship. I've also shown that there are other instances where she has a motive for money. And the evidence that is there is an order of probate court a year and a half, 2 years after this for conduct that she was displayed when she was conservator, showing that she could not account for money. She's not challenging that there's anything wrong with the document. She's challenging that she doesn't agree with it. So the document should come in.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out is this. It was 2 years after.
But it references what she spent the money on doing the conservatorship. When I got Ms. Cronky to tell me in cross that once her mother died, she contacted the court. The court then sends her a letter saying you have to file an accounting of what you did during the 11 months you were conservator. That's when she said she went to get Andy Shepard to be her attorney. And that's where the problems, when he attempted to try to see what she had done with her mother's money, that's when the 6,000 plus was missing.
But
And
the
there's-
charges and allegations at that point had been made for 2 years, right?
No, but the motive for her making the allegations can be derived under 608 by the use of this, showing that she committed bad acts before a court, that she was in contempt, that she took her mom's money and she couldn't account for it.
Let me ask you this. How much more of this is there? Is this the last part of this chain? What else is left in this particular issue with the probate court?
Oh, that's primarily it for the probate, Your Honor. That's it.
All right. Happy to hear from the state again.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misstated. Teresa caught me. That is not it. There's another issue, but just one other issue.
All right. Well, might need to take that one up too, I guess.
I certainly object to holding some sort of probate trial during a murder trial, particularly things that were filed in 2021, August of 2021, 2.5 years after the murder of her mother. And it's regarding her performance as conservator. That has nothing to do with any allegations, any statements that she made in January of 2019. Ms. Bright Matthews has made the point, if her point is that she had something financially to gain, she has made that point. We don't need to get bogged down with these probate court orders and documents and so this attorney did this and this attorney did this. I mean, this causes jury confusion. And if I may finish, it is not at all relevant to this case nor to the impeachment of this witness. She has impeached her on the financial aspect. And I will say also, Ms. Bright Matthews says that she has proven that, or shown the court, that she took money from her mom before she was conservator and after, when her mom, was unconscious. No, Ms. Kellum, Ms. Cronky testified that that check that has been entered has the date on it of January 15th of 2019, and it was to pay her back for cash that she gave her mother when she was trying to leave the marriage. So that's gonna be up to a jury to decide, but these probate matters, we're getting down in the weeds, and this is not relevant.
Your Honor, I don't have to, as I understand under 608 and under cross-examination, if I'm going to the credibility of a witness, I don't have to give relevant stuff to a murder. My client is facing a very, very serious charge, and she is the only one that says that there was any circumstantial evidence or connection to this burn. Of course, the first thing I did was research any contact she has had with law enforcement, as well as research any bad acts that would go to her credibility so that this jury can adequately review whether or not she has motive bias or any reason to lie to them. The arguments that counsel is making, those may be very good arguments. But my question to Ms. Cronky was, didn't you admit to the court that you did this, signed that check, signed your mom's name to that check, signed that check when your mother was intubated? The jury can weigh it as they choose. 608 is clear. I don't know what else I can do. This defendant has a right to defend himself. I'm sorry that there's a lot of bad faith and credibility issues, but just like I allowed them to go down every picture that they took and all the evidence that was relevant and not relevant, this defendant should be able to go into all the bad acts or alleged bad acts of Ms. Cronky, because she is their key so-called witness.
Your Honor, it's not bad acts that would be relevant. It would be, instances of truthfulness or untruthfulness. It's not bad acts. Also, while the jury is out, Ms. Bright Matthews questioned Ms. Cronky on a statement and asked about her saying that Craig broke a shotgun over her mother's hip. I believe that has opened the door to the victim's statement that she gave to Georgia Bureau of Investigations. Ms. Cronky replied, well, I didn't witness that, but that's information that came from that interview. And Ms. Bright Matthews questioned her about that on cross. So I believe I can get into that and ask her where that information came from.
Your Honor, it's still hearsay. What I questioned her about is, didn't she write it in that statement that she wrote to the court? That's all I said to her.
Let's stick with one issue at a time. Thank you for that. But so right now we're talking about the introduction, not of the testimony with regard to the probate court. You've already asked, I believe, all of the questions that you've done. You've made that point that in fact there was a ruling that was adverse to this witness in the probate court, and I guess there'll be some cross-examination about it. The question is, do we put in a court order from an entirely different court, from an entirely different proceeding, that seems, honestly cumulative to what you have already asked her, because it's just going to say exactly what you just asked her, I guess.
Your Honor, those photographs that the state put up in its case in chief are cumulative. I should be able to put up an order from, and I have probate court records custodian on subpoena. I should be able to put up the fact that she was found of mismanaging her mother's money and using it for herself. I also have,
Why would that put her in a position to be less than truthful in this case, though? That's the part I'm just
Your
not
Honor,
getting.
without me divulging the rest of my cross-examination on her, I can't at this time.
All
And
right.
I apologize, and if so, we can hold that evidence in abeyance. I don't have to say it, but I can promise you.
Well, then I would ask for a proffer outside of the jury's presence, which is typical
I don't think
in this
that is-
situation.
I don't think that is necessary. I think Ms. Swanson has a problem with the fact that I have information that conforms to 608. There's nothing I can do about that. I have to present it. Or either I'm not protecting my client.
I understand the balance of the probate information then. You said first that was going to be it if we wrapped this issue up, but then you said maybe not, maybe there's more.
Yes, there is one more.
And when you say one more, you mean one more document? I'm not asking you what.
One more. I don't have to put in the document if she responds to what she filed. It's just a question about did she file something and what the court, whether or not she knew she had to turn something over.
All right. And then that's the balance, that's everything in the probate issue.
Yes.
Which again, I'm struggling with, but mindful of the rights of the defendant and the rights of the state. I think I'll let you go a little further with it, but once those everything you have described is asked, then you are done with the probate issue. Is that accurate?
Yes, Your Honor.
And am I to understand that these documents are not going to go back to the jury?
I plan on moving that contempt regarding the $6,100 and at the appropriate time that the court considers that motion.
Can I look at that? I haven't actually seen that court
I would
order.
object to the documents going in if testimony has been given to such. It just causes jury confusion. It is cumulative. I know Ms. Bright Matthews thinks that pictures taken during a murder investigation are cumulative. This is not part of the murder investigation.
But the witness is a key witness. I get that.
Your Honor, I'd like to.
Give me just 1 second.
I don't think I'm gonna use that, but.
Now, this order says she's purged of contempt and then requires some,
Because of an agreement regarding her paying the money back. If you go further in there,
all right, and this is what has been marked
as
as
8.
defendant 8. And I think right before somebody handed this to me, Counsel, did you have something?
It was the same document.
Same document. All right,
Whatever she's intending to enter.
okay. All right, so with regard to 8, I think I may have ruled adverse to this a minute ago, but with regard to 8, I'll allow it. And I don't know where you're going with the rest of it, but I'm guessing there's an objection, but let's go ahead and bring the jury back in, and
Thank you.
we'll allow 8.
All right, and then regarding opening the door to where that information came from,
Don't bring the jury back in right yet.
because the way it makes it sound, Judge, is when that she just made up that information, and that's different from what she just testified to. But in fact, that information was agreed upon to not be admissible because it is hearsay, but when defense brings it up and
I don't really think the question was designed to elicit that response. I think that would be a pretty extreme sanction to open that up and allow that entire interview based on that one comment.
She did ask a specific question. Didn't you say that in that statement that a shotgun was broken over your mother's head?
That was in the courts at the bond hearing statement. The statement, I specifically kept referring her to her statement that she made at the bond hearing on February 19th.
Right, and what was the purpose of that?
Asking
To
her what she,
impeach her.
Let's
not
do this. I'm
impeaching.
not gonna allow that in at this time, but be extremely cautious, if you would, about anything having to do with that,
Right.
because if there's any more about it.
got it.
All right, so could you please bring the jury back in?
And turn on the air. Oh, I'm okay. They're cold, so I'm
This
okay.
place has good air.
$71.
71? Just leave it where it is, I think, wherever the...
Y'all should never put me about the policy.
All right, thank you all so much. We had a matter we needed to take up outside of your presence. As I instructed you early when we started this procedure that we might have those moments, and this was one of those moments. So we'll now be back on. My understanding is Defendant's Exhibit 8 is offered and is admitted despite the objection of the state. So,
Leanne, did you have to file, we talked earlier about an inventory and appraisement where you had to account for all the money. In that inventory and appraisement, did you also put a notation in there about a Globe life insurance policy?
I can't tell you exactly what I put in there, but yes, was paying the policy.
And when you were paying the policy, you also had the ability, as your mother's conservator, to handle her business, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Did you, what was the value of that policy? Wasn't it $30,000?
I think it was 25. It might have been 30, but I was thinking 25.
Did you change Craig's name to your name as beneficiary on that Globe Life policy?
At my mother's request, when she was lucid, yes. When she was in Charleston and things were going well and she had all of her mental capacity back, there were several things she wanted, and I took care of them all.
Throughout the 10-month period, when your mother was incapacitated, several doctors, 3 doctors, filed affidavits on your behalf for your mother stating that she was incompetent incapacitated, and did not have the ability to take care of her matters, didn't she?
Many times, yes.
They filed those documents so that you could be conservator. Isn't
Yes.
that right?
That was before she regained consciousness and regained her mental function.
Did you handle your mother's funeral?
I did.
And you handled the arrangements at Bryce Herndon?
Yes.
And did you assist in preparation of the obituary?
Yes.
In that obituary, did you list Craig as the spouse of your mother?
No.
And you knew them to be married?
Yes.
You knew your mother had a hard time throughout her life because she had a hard time with the divorce of your father, didn't she?
She did.
Okay. Is this the marriage license? Is that your mom's marriage license to Craig?
Yes.
Does that appear to be the original?
Yes.
The Terry Lee Bennett is the same one that was married to your father, Tommy Bennett?
Yes.
And on that, it shows that at the time of their marriage, he was 27 years old and your mother was 49. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
And they lived together for some time since he was 17 years old. Isn't that correct?
Once again, I'm not sure of the exact age. I know he was young, but I don't know the exact age.
Court's indulgence, real quick. Would you agree with me if I said that the day that Craig called you, telling you to hurry up, that he was distraught and upset?
He was panicked, yes. He was distraught.
And he was in the room when you got there. He didn't just abandon your mom in the hospital, did he?
No, he was there. He absolutely was there when I got there.
And you absolutely saw Craig slam your mama's hands into the door the night before. And
Several times.
And you love your mom.
Yes.
And yet you took your sick mother back to that house, didn't you?
To Kansas City?
Yes.
Yes, because she did not have keys to get into
Well,
her
how'd
other
you,
house.
you never got them. How did you get in the house?
One of the doors happened to be unlocked.
Oh, okay. And you went in, or did your mom go in?
We both went in.
Okay, did you spend the night with her?
No.
Okay. Why didn't you call the police? You didn't do that, did you?
She begged me not to.
Okay.
She promised me, she begged
Okay.
me not to.
But you are her daughter. At the time, you know she's a cancer survivor. You know she's bipolar. You know she has many strokes. You'd gone to the hospital with her when she was complaining of falling. And you also knew that she had lithium poisoning and she would just walk and fall. But yet you never said anything to the cops. You could have left her at Wade
That was
Hampton.
years previous.
Years previous. Did you know that previously she also was diagnosed with dementia?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. But you went with her to her appointments, didn't you?
Most of them, yes.
Okay. Isn't it true that after you appeared here as a victim. Craig ended up on an ankle monitor and had a pretty high bond.
I mean, that's a matter of opinion.
Did your mom love Craig?
She did,
Did Craig love your mom?
yes.
Did your mom appear to just lose the will to live?
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to answer that in whole.
Did you ever write a post that your mom was failing to thrive? Because and I believe you told this jury earlier that she wasn't eating or anything, right? Am I characterizing it wrong? I don't want to.
No, you're not. I mean, there's reasons for it, but I just can't say what that is, so.
Leanne, you've been sworn to tell the truth here today.
Absolutely.
Are you willing to admit that after a long relationship with Craig, you were once pregnant and got the abortion, and that Craig, as well as your father, paid for the abortion when you were 23?
I would object
That
to
is not true.
relevance.
Very relevant, goes to motive.
20
The witness
plus
is
years
now
later.
answering. The witness has answered, so.
Thank you.
All right. Leanne, Miss Bright Matthews covered a number of things with you. Let me see. I don't know. Is this yours? Are these the exhibits or the warrant? Where are the exhibits? Okay. I think there's a GoFundMe exhibit somewhere. Oh, that's what.
I think all that's still up here. And the marriage license is still up here.
Okay, thank you.
I think that was maybe an exhibit.
It was not. All right, Leanne. I'm going to show you what defense entered as defendant's exhibit number 6, and this involves the check that you were questioned about.
Yes.
What is the date on that check?
115.
All right, and is that predated?
No.
When did your mama die? Or, I'm sorry, when was the burn accident?
The burn accident was on the 17th.
Okay, so that was written 2 days prior to the burn accident, the burn incident, correct? 2 days prior?
Correct.
Okay. All right, and what did you say the check was for?
She had decided after an incident on the 13th that she had to find a way out. She asked me to give her cash.
Objection, Your Honor. I've tried to give her latitude, but she's hearsay.
This is redirect from what she was asking during cross about the check. I believe Miss.
I think she can go into it a little bit. I mean, again, it was an issue that you brought up, so go ahead.
Okay, so she had just.
Excuse me, let's
Yes.
not get into a whole lot, if anything,
Sure.
of what she said, but.
Sure. Okay. But it was for what?
To repay me for the cash that I had given her.
Okay. This GoFundMe defendant's number 7 looks like $2,500 raised and some change. Did that begin to cover your travel expenses to and from Atlanta?
No. And I started that because I was asked to, because I was getting hundreds of messages wanting to help and send money, and so I did start that.
Okay. And for a period of time in probate court, is it fair to say that you were representing yourself without a lawyer?
Objection. Leading.
I'm just trying to get to the matters that Miss Bright Matthews crossed on.
Right, it is leading, but I'll allow a little bit of it just for efficiency. So you may answer.
Yes, and then I realized I had no idea what I was doing, so I reached out to an attorney.
Okay. Is it a confusing process?
Very.
Let me ask you this. Are you living high on the hog as a result of the death of your mother?
No.
Would you rather have your mother here than any money that you got out of any of this?
Well, the majority of the money went to her funeral expenses.
Okay. And obviously, I would think that you would rather have your mom here than $1,200 or a trip to a shoe store that she wanted you to take the boys to.
Yes.
Okay. Leanne, is everything that you testified to here today the truth?
100%.
Thank you.
Leanne, you were asked about that $1,200 check, but you told the jury about freezing the safety deposit box that you said was in your mom's.
Objection, this is outside the scope of redirect.
She talked about the $1,200.
I know, but, and the question can be about the 1,200, but you're asking her about a safe deposit box that was not part of the
It
redirect.
actually is technically, because as a part of that, she's saying that was her mother's way of getting money when she had access to
Well, hold on.
$1,200.
I think it's beyond the scope of the redirect, so sustained.
Leanne, she asked you about living high on the hog and what you stand to gain. Don't you stand to gain $50,000 if Craig goes to prison for hurting your mom?
I don't believe it's that much.
$47,500?
I believe the house was sold for $80,000 and $40,000 was put in probate and escrow.
Your Honor, this is also outside the scope of redirect.
No, it
I
goes to
believe
the.
it is. I don't remember hearing anything about that.
No, and I would ask that to be stricken
She
from the
asked
record.
whether she stand to gain anything, and
I did not. I asked her if she was living high on the hog.
and then she went on to say, is there anything you stand to gain?
I
and-
did not ask that.
Well, let's do this. Members of the jury, we're going to take another quick break and take up a matter outside of your presence. Can you see when the door's closed? Okay. Just don't have a good angle on it. Great, thanks. Madam Court Reporter, can you find Ms. Swanson's questions? I think it was very near the end, and let us know what those were.
Pie on the hog.
Hmm?
Pie on the hog.
It was high on the hog. It was
High on the hog.
Pie on the hog.
High on the hog.
Just one moment. You know, also, let's see what else she's saying.
Let me ask you this. Are you living high on the hog as a result of the death of your mother? No. Would you rather have your mother to here today.
Stop.
That's great.
I didn't hear that, Ms. Bray Matthews.
She opened the door on financial issues and what she used the money for and living high on the hog. She opened it. I didn't open it.
But we were dealing with specifics, and the specific you got into was not something at all on redirect. In fact, I don't think did we hear about $47,500 and at all in any of
When
this?
she said that about her living high on the hog, and
I don't think living high on the hog opens that. I think, again, you're restricted to what was in redirect on recross, and I just don't think that was in there. Would there be other questions on recross, or would that conclude? That would conclude. Okay. So my plan then would be to bring this jury back in. Is there nothing else then for this witness?
Nothing else for this witness.
All right, bring this jury back in and give them an hour for lunch. Does that
Okay.
work? Or is there another, does that work with your schedule? Should we take one more witness before we eat lunch?
The next witness I would call would be Jason Chapman. I don't have a ton for him. I don't know how long Ms. Bright Matthews would want him on the stand. He just kind of fills in some things. We could certainly call him or wait till after lunch.
Since we don't know, maybe we'll just wait till after lunch.
Sure, whatever the court.
Does that work?
yes, for scheduling purposes, when will SLED?
SLED is here now, so they will be prepared to testify right after Jason Chapman. So everyone will be ready to go as soon as we come back for lunch.
All right, I'm thinking an hour even. It's 12:10. Probably the best thing we can do. All right, let's bring them back in then, please. There's a little oil on that chair, it sounds like. All right, we've taken up a matter of law. I'm going to ask you to disregard the last question. I don't think there was an answer that defense counsel asked. Also, we're going to break for lunch for 1 hour, so 1:15, I guess. And standard instructions, don't discuss the case amongst yourselves or with others. Don't read any news reports, anything like that during lunch. Any questions? All right, we'll see you. And anything else from counsel?
No, Your Honor.
All right, and I'll do that after. Okay, all right, thank you so much. Any objection to excusing the witness?
None from the state.
Yes,
Okay. Is she under subpoena?
Yes.
Okay, well then,
And she's been here as a victim in the gallery.
all right.
Well, I think she intends to stick around
Yeah.
anyway, but
Well, you're excused from the stand. How about that? And we're going to eat lunch, but you're not excused from the trial or the stand. Anything else for the record?
Nothing.
All right, let's eat lunch. Thank you.